Welcome to this session on preventing addiction and AIDS, teacher's role. In this session, we shall focus on the contemporary social problems that adolescents may face. I am Shutapa Bose from the School of Education, Indira Gandhi National Open University, and I have with me an expert in this area who also happens to be my colleague, Dr. Elizabeth. Welcome, Elizabeth, to this program. You see that adolescence is a phase of life when there is a heightened socialization. Children of this age would like to socialize, they would like to have the company of their peers, they would rather prefer the company of their peers and would prefer to listen to the advice that their peers have for them, and the advice that their peers have for them holds much more importance than what their teachers and parents might have to tell them. So they are very fond of socializing at this age. Socialization is at its peak, we may say, during this phase of life. And not only that, adolescents are also very fond of getting into risky behavior. They may tend to indulge into risky behavior. They may like to initiate risky behavior, or if they have already initiated, they may like to continue with risky behavior. So what would be the role of the teachers? What could be the role of the school so that adolescents don't get into these kinds of problems? This is what we are going to discuss today. There are many kinds of contemporary social issues and which might be quite problematic for children of this age. I mean for teenagers. For instance, underage consumption of alcohol is one. Second thing is getting into drugs. Then misusing technology, that is using technology for shooting indecent things, for posting it, for circulating it, for watching things that might be objectionable, and also many other activities which could lead to legal as well as health related and of course social problems. So our discussion would be on all these things. Elizabeth, would you like to say something at this point?
Yes. So here we can see that the school, we cannot say that the school as a place for repairing all social evils. But the school we can see as a place for repairing one thing. The one thing is the evil of ignorance. So here in this context, what Dr. Sutapa has told that this adolescent stage as a period of stress and storm. So out of these physical changes, emotional changes, they are prey to different types of social evils. So in this case, what is the role of the teachers? The responsibilities of the teachers we are going to discuss. First, when we are considering the responsibility of the teachers, the first responsibility, it is adopting a positive attitude towards these addicted children. So here we are concentrating this alcohol and how it is leading to HIV transmission, all the things is coming under this case. So this positive attitude among the adolescents, especially those who we are calling them as strayed from the social norms. And here the positive attitude can be developed by the teacher, as the children, they are spending most of the time in schools. They are away from home. And in this case, the teacher has to play a major role. How to give morale or moral strength to these adolescents. And second thing we can see in the school setup, a conducive school environment is needed. A conducive school environment means the adolescents, they should feel free to share their problems with their teachers. They should not have fear in sharing with others. Mostly we have to think about the current school situation, whether we are like a parent away from the home parents. So the teacher, they are considered as the second parents of children. So in this case, this conducive environment should be developed by the teachers. And next one, we have to see that strengthening these value-based interventions that is mostly needed. So value-based interventions can be promoted not only through this moral class. So whatever subject we taught, the teachers, they can play a major role in promoting this value-based. And next I want to emphasize the school-based interventions. Mostly we are concentrating upon the problems that arise in the school environment. But the teacher, they should be a caretaker, a supporter of the students. So inside the school environment, not only inside the classroom, outside, whether the children, they are in the playground, how they are behaving, how their peer group relationship, and on their way also, how they are going, that all things should be taken into account. And another one that I want to stress, that this strengthening the social values. So the values we can develop through the school situation, and the teachers, they can promote this value system. And this next aspect we can discuss, that shaping the attitude of children, that is more important. So this adolescent stage, it is a changing stage, so that there may be different types of behavioral changes in the pattern of children. So here the attitudinal changes can be made by the teachers. And we can see that what is the role of the teacher? It is more important in providing information. Dr. Suthappa now discuss about this providing information.
You see, there are many social evils. Many types of social evils are there. And it is not possible, it is not practical for the school to root out all the social evils. There are many problems related to violation of rules, when rules are broken, when rules are violated, when we see that citizens are not exactly law-abiding citizens, when there are many practices that lead to health-related problems. The school cannot be held accountable, the school cannot be held responsible for all these things. But the school definitely has a role to play in bringing down the level of all these undesirable practices. Now you see that if these practices are there, as I said, that the school cannot be held entirely accountable for it. The teachers cannot be blamed for everything that goes wrong in the society. But at the same time, if the perpetuators of these practices, if those who get into some legal problem because of their own doing, those who indulge in practices because of which they are into situations in which they would not like to be, and if these things happen just because of their ignorance, just because they do not have the necessary information about the pros and cons of such practices, then the school is definitely to blame. Then the society would say that the teachers have not carried out their roles and responsibilities in the manner that they should have done. So the basic role of the school is to provide information. Information. Why is information so essential? Information is basically necessary so that students, adolescents know about the pros and cons of an action, about a practice, that what would it lead them into, what kind of situation they might get into, and what would be the quality of life after getting into such practices. So if they are well informed, then there are chances that adolescents might not resort to such practices. Now we know very well that there are some people who know everything about these practices, who have all the information they need, but yet they get into such practices. That is mainly because they lack the will to say no to their peers, or no to themselves, or no to the pressures that are on them for initiating or continuing with such practices. So they may not be having that will, they may not be having that self-esteem to say no to their peers. So we see that apart from information, these two things are also equally important, so that they have the information and also they have the necessary level of willpower, they have the necessary level of self-esteem, so that they can take their own decisions. Now this is about the role of the school as well as about the teacher in providing information. Now there are many questions. What kind of information should be provided to adolescents? And the second question is, how should that kind of information be passed on to them? Now first, if we take up the what question, that what is the information that is actually needed by adolescents. Adolescents also have a very heterogeneous profile. Adolescents or teenager students of one school and the teenagers of another school may not require the same kind of information. Nevertheless, the teacher has to categorize information into two basic parts. The first happens to be the facts. What are the facts about, say, substance abuse, that is underage consumption of alcohol? What are the facts associated with getting into drugs? What are the facts about cybercrime? What is exactly a cybercrime? What is cyberbullying? And what would happen if children are using technology for wrong purposes? What kind of problems they might get into? Why is it so unethical? So all these things are the factual information. Apart from that, there is also another answer for the what related question, that is about myths. And myths could be very strong. For instance, there could be myths related to underage consumption of alcohol. There are myths that it is okay to drink, it is okay to try out certain substances like drugs on particular festivals, or it is okay to gamble once in a while, especially during certain festivals. Now this okaying such practices, that it would not be wrong to carry out such practices on certain festivals, this is a myth. What should not be done on any other day should also not be carried out by a teenager even during a festival. Now there are also certain other myths. For instance, trying a drug once or twice will not make me an addict. I have the power within me. I have that kind of capacity within me to say no third time or maybe fourth time. So occasionally trying out drugs is absolutely okay. This is another myth. Then there may also be myth that only a certain period of the ovulation cycle is unsafe for conceiving, and otherwise the rest of the cycle is okay. And also that the first time intercourse may not lead to a disease like AIDS. Or there may be other myths also related to AIDS, that if I take certain kinds of precautions which are not medically sanctioned, even then I may keep myself safe from AIDS. So you see that these are the myths. And it is very important for the teachers not only to pass on factual information but also discuss the myths threadbare with them. Now coming to the question of how is the information to be imparted? First thing I would like to say is that adolescence is the age when children might rebel against their parents. It is a common experience for us. Try dictating something to a teenage son or daughter and she may retort with a no. She may just say no, you are not right. Or she may just ignore whatever advice the parents have for the child. Same is the case at schools for teachers. They may not obey their teachers or they may not listen to what their teachers say because this is the age when they rebel. Therefore, there is just no point in teaching and preaching and lecturing. You make them sit in a classroom and then deliver a lecture. It would be of hardly any use to them. They would go out of the classroom and then they would resort to the same behavior which they had before they had attended the lecture. So what could be the way out? How is the information to be imparted? For answering the question to how, I would say that it is always best to engage teenagers in the discussion. It is always better to have an interaction with them so that there is an interactive discourse within the classroom and not a didactic one. When there is a didactic session, the teacher speaks, the adolescents are supposed to be listening. They may not listen, and even if they listen, the information may just not be registered. So it is always better if there is a debate, a discussion, a discourse in true sense, when they have an equal opportunity to speak. Not only speaking with the teacher, but also the classroom environment may be structured in such a way that the students get an opportunity to interact with each other. So group discussions may be there, brainstorming may be there, debates may be there. The main thing is that the children should get an opportunity to express themselves. Then the teachers would also come to know about the kinds of beliefs they have, about the kinds of views they have, and the teacher can get an idea of the point from which she can start. Now Elizabeth, you may like to add to it.
So here we are discussing about the roles of the teachers. So in instructional purposes, mostly the teachers always frame objectives. So here, selection of learning experiences, it should frame an objective. What is the objective? Is that a perfect health-based education. So what is to be taught and how to be taught? You have listened from Dr. Suttappa that how to give information to the students. And in the method of teaching, this discussion, it is a better thing. But we can see that most of the adolescents who had become addicted, they are suffering from 3 S factors. The S factors: shame, silence, stigma. Take the case of AIDS affected children. What happened to them? Out of fear, they are not able to reveal the truth to others. So what is happening is that not only affecting themselves, but they are becoming harmful to the society also. So many problems, whatever the students are facing, there should be a free and conducive environment to share with the teachers. So here, among the teachers, I have to tell that they have to shed their inhibitions. And what is the use? And mostly I am concentrating upon this alcohol abuse, and it is leading through, there is a linkage between alcohol abuse and HIV transmission also. And what is the linkage is that the high risk sexual behaviors. And mostly we can see nowadays this adolescence stage, there is that urge for this sexual activity also. So the best thing is that in the instructional roles, the teachers can teach that the abstinence, that is very much important. So prevention is better than cure. So here this abstinence part, how to take place, or otherwise those who cannot control themselves. So what are the ways for the outlet? So here a perfect discussion should be undergone. There should be a fear-free environment in the classroom. So the teacher, he should be a friend, a supporter, all those things should be needed. And here we can see that we can conduct some community involvement programs in the schools also, so that they will get a clear picture about the effects of these social evils. And through this role play and the community participated programs, documentary films, they will get an idea about what are the merits as well as the demerits of being involved in such social evil activities. So here we can see these instructional roles. While framing, the teacher should think thoroughly, and there should not be any misconception on the part of the teacher. The vocabulary used by the teacher should be very careful. It should not be hurt. It should not transmit wrong knowledge also. And this instructional part, we can see that after entering into some problems, we can hear some echoes of addicts. Some echoes such as, drugs ruled my life, but I didn't even really know it. I was ruining my life with drugs and alcohol, but it was so hard to overcome the temptation. So what is the main role here is that how to become a person of self-control. I told you about this abstinence. So this self-control, how I can control myself. So what are the effects of if we are not self-controlling? All those things should need a clear understanding. So here the main thing what we are listening is that the teacher's role as a counselor is very much important. So nowadays the teacher is not a sage on the stage, but he is becoming as a counselor. So as a counselor, the teacher should patiently listen to the problems of the adolescents. And mostly in school setup we can see that the teachers are untrained how to handle this type of students, and more than that, they are overloaded with the syllabus. They are always concentrating upon how to finish the portions. Nobody is there to listen their echoes. So here, a patient listener, a teacher should become a patient listener. And the next one, an empathetic attitude. So some may think that children belongs to somebody else. Not like that, because they are in our hands. So shaping their attitude, shaping their future is in the hands of the teachers. And the teacher should be a constant supporter. And so many students who are becoming a victim of social evils, they try to detain from the society. In the classroom also, their behavior must be different. So the teacher should be a caretaker to them, a supporter to them. So these things we should be careful while dealing with the children. And now in this aspect, this life skills education is also very much important. So now Dr. Suthappa will give a clear picture on what type of life skills is needed in school situation.
Yes, life skills are definitely important. Life skills are basically the skills that help us in leading a better quality life and also in managing our life in a better way. And not only that, life skills help an individual to utilize his or her potential to the full extent, so that the potential does not remain suppressed, does not go unutilized. And as I said that when adolescents are concerned, or for that matter not only adolescents but for even children who are younger than adolescents also, when we try to impart life skills based education, we need to remember that lecturing and other didactic practices will not be very helpful. So we need to think of instructional strategies where or in which the students also get to have a very active role. And besides that, if the teacher at all wants to present something, she may present it in the form of cases. Now what could be the cases and what kind of cases should the teacher present? First, I would say that the cases should be authentic ones, not something that the teacher has just imagined. This is the difference. This is the primary difference between a case and an example. An example can be thought of instantaneously, but a case is something which is authentic, which has really happened. So the teacher may collect some cases from the newspaper and from journals and from other literary sources, and also on the basis of real life experiences. And the teacher may share such cases with the students. The teacher can narrate the cases, or the teacher may get them printed, word processed and printed, and provide the students with a copy and ask them to carry out a reading assignment of such cases. The students would read the cases, and after that there could be discussion within the classroom on the basis of the cases. So the main thing is that the teacher has to induce reflection in the students. Reflection means critical thinking, that what went wrong, why did the case take such a turn, what could have been done at the right time to prevent such an incident. So the cases could also be realistic ones. I would cite one example here. Many of us have read in the newspaper about the MMS scandal, the multimedia scandal, in which a student of a very reputed school of a metropolis of India was involved. Rather, 3 students were involved, and 2 teenagers, they shot a video, and after that they sold it to some other person or gave it to some other person who posted it on an internet site, so that that indecent stuff could be auctioned. So we say that this is how the teenagers got into trouble, and that it became a case of a cyber crime, and later on it was banned. A decision was taken to ban the use of mobile phone in the Delhi classrooms, in the Delhi schools, and also in the schools and colleges of many places in India. So the technology had been used for wrong purposes because a wrong decision had been taken by the students. They did not know the pros and cons. So this is why I say that it is always necessary to provide them with the information, with the right kind of information. So we know that WHO has prepared a list of 10 life skills that matter. The teacher could narrate the pros and cons of an action and then relate it with the life skill. For example, what could be the consequences of underage drinking? The adolescent who goes for an underage drinking bout may become very overconfident, may become reckless, and such overconfidence, reckless behavior might not be seen, might not be observed when the person is sober. The person may not be indulging in such high risk behavior when the person is not under the influence of alcohol. Then coming to aggression, the teacher may narrate a case where acts of violence were performed after the consumption of alcohol. This, what happens is that especially for adolescents, they may misread cues and take wrong cues or get the cues as something which the victim might not have even intended, and after that there may be an incidence of violence, aggression, and loss of control is very true, is very common rather. The teacher may narrate the cases of motor accidents on the roads after drunken driving, and the researchers have shown that when teenagers drink because of their relative lack of experience of driving and because their motor skills are impaired much more than people who are not teenagers, who are adults. So the cases of drunken driving leading to accidents is much more when a teenager or an adolescent is involved. So the teacher may narrate such cases. And then besides that, the tendency to commit suicide, and academically what can go wrong with students who take to drinking or who start abusing drugs. So these are the cases which the teacher may narrate and also discuss with the students, and that what is your opinion, what should the student have done or what should he not have done. And besides that, now I would just discuss the life skills one after another. For instance, the first one is self-awareness. Self-awareness means making the student aware of his capabilities, of his potential, and what are the weaknesses. For instance, someone may be very good in music while someone may be very good in maths. It's not necessary for all of us to be good in all these spheres. So the teacher might make the student aware of his strengths. That's so what if you are not very good in languages but you are very good in maths, you are very good in particular area, in this particular area. So this actually boosts the confidence level of the student. So becoming aware of one's own potential, of one's own weaknesses, one's own strengths and things like that. And then comes the second life skill, which is of empathy. Empathy is quite different from sympathy. Empathy means putting myself in someone else's shoes, that if I would have been in that person's position, what would have been the case. For instance, there is a practice of discriminating against those who are suffering from AIDS. Although it has been established medically that AIDS is not a contagious disease provided certain precautions are taken. So empathizing with the victims of AIDS, especially with the children of AIDS patients, and there are practices like keeping out children of AIDS patients from schools. Instead of that, empathizing with them and trying to create an inclusive environment. Empathy is fundamental to the creation of an inclusive environment. And then apart from that, there is also the life skill related to critical thinking. Critical thinking means the ability to look at both sides of the picture, that what would be the pros and cons. Okay, supposing I go out with my friends and start drinking, what would be the things that seem to be good for me. For instance, it would make me acceptable to my peers, it would be a means of promoting me, or it would be the door of my peer group would be open for me. I would be accepted as one of them, otherwise I would remain an outcast for them. So these are the enjoyable things for me. But what would be the negative aspects? That supposing I get addicted, then my studies would suffer, my career would suffer, I would be in legal problems in which I do not want to be, I could be in situations in which my parents and I do not want to be, and it is better if I don't get into drugs, if I don't start drinking, I can enjoy the so-called normal life, like say watching a football game, playing or actively participating in sports, having good relation commitment with family, with the community, with the school. So these are the other aspects of drinking or getting into drugs. So if I weigh them, then which one is more important for me? So therefore this is the ability to think critically, that my peers may say that okay, it is okay for you to drink. Even there are pop artists, there are pop stars, and there are many artists who are into drinking, who are into drugs, but yet they stay in top form. So, and moreover, everyone or many others are doing it, so why not me? But if I have the ability to think critically, then I would also look into the fallouts of a particular practice and decide accordingly. Then apart from critical thinking, there is also the skill of the ability to think creatively. Creative thinking means thinking out of the box, thinking of about a particular thing in a new way, in an innovative way. That okay, if my peers are saying that it is okay to drink, it is okay to occasionally take drugs, but is this the solution to the problems that they are stating? That for instance, these things will help me get out of my present state of tension, present state of worry, or are there other ways? Supposing I am into sports, supposing I play a game, or supposing I read a good book, I listen to music, then these are some of the creative ways of solving my problems, of lessening my tension, and there could be other examples also. And then comes the point of decision making, that my peers are pressurizing me, and I also see maybe there are many adult members in the family who are also indulging in certain practices, but is it okay for me to do this practice, for me to carry out this practice? So this is the skill of taking decisions, that what would be the pros and cons of a particular action, and taking decisions. Then coming to problem solving, that supposing a friend of mine is in a particular problem, so how can I help my friend in solving that problem? Or if an adolescent himself is in a problem, how best she can deal with that problem, how best she or he can cope up with that problem. That is rationally thinking about the problem, rationally thinking about the solutions of the problem, and then selecting the best alternative and trying it out, reflecting on it. So these are some of the steps of problem solving. And apart from that, effective communication. Communication is also very important. How to communicate with teachers, how to communicate with peers, that is also important. For instance, one who can communicate effectively with peers would be in a position to say no. Now before I discuss the rest of the skills, Elizabeth, would you like to add something here?
So regarding this decision making and problem solving, mostly we can see that the adolescent stage, they are poor in making good decisions. Here the school, especially the teachers, can play a major role. They might be thinking which thing is useful for them. The immediate happiness they are always going after. So for that just 1 minute happiness, they might be doing some kind of social evils. So what is the after effect of it? That should be discussed, like what Dr. Suttappa told, that should be discussed in the classroom. So what will happen? And for example, these documentary films we can show, and from that a group discussion can be conducted. What are the after effects of each thing? And this problem solving capacity should be developed among the children, so that what is the steps to be taken. And mostly we can see that those students who are going away from the normal practices, there is a tendency to stigmatize that type of students. So this stigmatization should be away from the society. It won't give any positive results. So normally what the parents or the teachers tell that don't become friends with such type of students, then who will shape their behavior? That is the question. So here the peer interaction, the peer based interaction is very much important, and for this purpose the locality, the participation of the community is also important, because the culture where the students are fostering, that also influence upon the students also. So here the intervention of the community beliefs, the practices, all those things should be discussed in a proper way. So instead of this excluding a particular group, we have tried to include them and make them a good citizens of society. So this shaping the choices of students, shaping the attitude of students, and shaping the character and the future of the students is in the hands of the teachers. For this, the normal teachers should be trained, and the school authorities should make some efforts how to train them. For this community, non-governmental organizations, we can make a tie with them, and they can also give some programs. Suppose we are conducting the health club. So during this World AIDS Day or some tobacco day like that, we can conduct these rallies, some awareness programs, some real life experiences, and how these affect and how some kind of life skills should be developed. All those things can be discussed. So the rest of the life skills you can listen from Dr. Sutam.
Coming to the next life skill, it is about interpersonal relations. It is important for adolescents to understand how to maintain healthy relationship with their peers, with their parents, teachers, that is adults in the society, as well as with the juniors in the maybe in the school, maybe in the community, and how to resolve conflicts. There may also be intrapersonal conflicts when, as I said, that there may be a conflict whether to go along with the tide and do what their peers are doing, or whether to stay away from peers, at least when they are indulging in some practices which are not desirable. So how to develop a healthy relationship with their peers is also important, and at the same time how not to get swayed away by what their peers are saying is also important. And then coping with stress, this is another important life skill. How to cope with stress. Adolescents are under lot of pressure, are under lot of stress, not only because of the academic activities in the school and the curriculum load, but because today many parents expect their children to do very well academically and also in sports, in music and other co-curricular activities. This may lead to stress build up within adolescents, and as I said, it is though a myth, but many adolescents think that once in a while if they go to a party in which they would be indulging in practices like drinking or taking drug, that would be a stress buster. But they don't realize that instead of being a stress buster habit, it could lead to further stress in the form of quarrels and also disputes in the family with parents, then falling grades, as I have said, and therefore poor performance again becoming a source of stress. And apart from that, economic aspect. For instance, whenever a child is indulging in such practices, sooner or later she will need more and more money to support these habits, and this may, in extreme cases, this may also lead to stealing. So what are the implications of starting these practices? Why not say no, as Elizabeth has very rightly said, why not totally avoid these things? Therefore, the decisions that would help adolescents in managing their stress, in keeping stress at a low level, and same for coping with emotions. Adolescence is a phase when there is heightened emotional activity, the emotions run very high, and how to cope with such emotions, how to stay emotionally balanced. There, apart from intelligence quotient, there is also emotional quotient, and it is essential for succeeding in life to be an emotionally balanced person. So if a person is emotionally balanced, she would not be swayed by what his or her peers are doing, what his or her peers are saying. And apart from these life skills which a teacher must help the adolescents can develop these life skills, the teacher has an important role to play. As I said, it could be through the narration of cases, it could be through brainstorming sessions, it could be through interactive discussions. And the teacher also has a very important role in sensitizing the school authorities to ensure that there are no suppliers of these things within the school campus and also within the immediate precincts of the school campus. Now if there is a bar in a nearby area, it is not healthy for a school, and the teachers have to be very careful that such kind of vendors are not there within the short distance of the school premises. And she also has to be in regular touch with the parents and with the community members, and tell the parents that if they themselves are indulging in such practices, or for that matter if the teachers are themselves not role models, if they are not practicing what they are preaching, then there would be little impact on children. So it is very important for the parents and teachers not to indulge in practices which they would not like the students or adolescents to indulge in. Therefore it is necessary from time to time to get in touch with the parents and also discuss with the parents to have a healthy relationship with their children, to spend more time with their children, talk to them about their problems, and not to have very high expectations from them, and not to have only realistic expectations from them. Elizabeth, would you like to add to it?
Yeah, really, the leisure time of the student should be utilized properly. And mostly these adolescents, they are more strength, and so they should be trained how to use the leisure time properly. So here it is high time for the teachers, the parents and the community participation is needed. So now I want to add that we should start to break the link. What is the link? The link between this addiction and which leads to these social evils. So through this life skill based approach and through proper knowledge and proper information, and as a caring and a listening teacher, we can modify the character of the adolescents. So let the adolescents be taken into consideration and let they be trained in a proper way, so that the teacher should be a model to them, should be a supporter to them, and then this type of social evils can be kept away. Thank you.
Thank you.